Located in the Attica region of Greece, ancient Athens was one of the most influential and outstanding cities in the entire history of Western civilization. Dating back thousands of years, Athens thrived during the classical period of ancient Greece, excelling as a center of culture, politics, philosophy, and the arts. Athens' beginnings date back to the Bronze Age, although the information available about this early period is often based on legends and myths, which make it difficult to fully distinguish the historical reality. In Greek mythology, a half-man, half-serpent demigod called Cecrops emerged from the earth. He is regarded as the first king of Athens and is often associated with the establishment of key elements of civilization, such as agriculture, religion, and social organization. Erechtheus, who succeeded Cecrops as king, is another mythical character associated with the origins of Athens. The best-known legend related to Erechtheus surrounds the dispute between the goddess Athena and Poseidon over the city's patronage. Not wanting to let any of the gods get angry and vengeful, Cecrops thought it would be fairer to let the people vote. The people who fished at sea voted for Poseidon, who would help them with their profession. On the other hand, the women, who made their living working on the land, voted for Athena. Since there were more women than men, Athena was the winner, and the city was named after her. Some versions of the myth say that Erechtheus is one of Athena's sons. Variations exist in the story of his birth, but one of them involves Athena giving birth to Erechtheus after having swallowed an olive seed. Erechtheus is connected to the construction of the Erechtheion Temple on the Acropolis of Athens, dedicated to him and other deities such as Poseidon and Hephaestus. Athens was settled during the Mycenaean period, lasting from 1600 to 1100 BC, as evidenced by fortifications and palaces on the Acropolis. But the collapse of the Mycenaean civilization ushered in a period of decline and obscurity in Athens during the so-called Greek Dark Ages. The city resurfaced during the Archaic period between 800 and 480 BC, bearing witness to the enforcement of laws by the Athenian legislator Draco and more far-reaching reforms by the statesman Solon. Clisthenes was an archaic Greek politician who continued Solon's work at the end of the 6th century BC and was instrumental in Athens's political evolution. Clisthenes is often considered the father of Athenian democracy for his reforms, including the establishment of a popular assembly and territorial redistribution. Athens reached its peak during the 5th century BC under the leadership of Pericles, an era of great prosperity and cultural development. The Athenian society and culture in ancient Greece were outstanding for their lasting influence on Western civilization. In different periods, such as the Archaic, Classical, and Hellenistic, Athenian society underwent several transformations. Athenian society was split into different classes, including citizens, foreign residents, and slaves. Male citizens had political rights and took part in voting on important issues in the assembly. Citizenship was limited to adult males born to Athenian parents, with women, foreigners, and slaves excluded. Athens was the birthplace of Greek philosophy, with notable philosophers such as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. They studied ethical, political, and metaphysical issues, having a significant influence on Western thought. In Athens, education was mainly aimed at male citizens. Children were taught at home until the age of 6, after which they went to public schools. Classical Athens was noted for its remarkable artistic achievements, especially during Pericles' rule. The building of the Acropolis, including the Parthenon, is an outstanding example of classical Greek architecture. Athens was also an intellectual hotbed, with notable breakthroughs in mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Athenian society was dynamic and distinguished by a remarkable appreciation of the arts and philosophy. Theater had a central role in Athenian culture, with drama festivals such as the Dionysia. Playwrights such as Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides wrote plays that explored mythological themes and ethical issues. Ancient Greek literature flourished in Athens, with epics such as Homer's Iliad and Odyssey standing out. Athens, as one of the main city-states of ancient Greece, was embroiled in several wars throughout its history. Athens' military might during its golden age in the 5th century BC was quite remarkable, and it played a significant role in the Greco-Persian Wars and the Peloponnesian War. It built long walls, known as the Themistoclean Wall, connecting the city to the port of Piraeus. This allowed Athens to retain access to the sea, even in siege situations. Light Athenian infantry, consisting mainly of citizen soldiers, were well trained and used spears and shields. Athens also had hoplites, heavy infantrymen, who comprised the backbone of the army. They were equipped with spears, shields, breastplates, helmets, and a sword for close-range combat. Athens managed to assemble a remarkable navy made up of triremes, fast and maneuverable ships. Outstanding strategists, such as Themistocles, had crucial roles in the development and command of the Athenian navy. Athenian control of the seas provided economic and strategic advantages, as it controlled trade routes and held significant influence in the Delian League. Athens had a key role in the Greco-Persian Wars, a series of conflicts between the Greek city-states and the Persian Empire, led by Darius I and later his son Xerxes I. The Greco-Persian Wars had two main campaigns: the First Greco-Persian War, which lasted from 492 to 490 BC, and the Second Greco-Persian War, fought from 480 to 479 BC. Under the leadership of the strategist Miltiades, the Athenians achieved a decisive victory over the Persians at the Battle of Marathon during the First Greco-Persian War in September 490 BC on a plain east of Athens. According to legend, an Athenian messenger named Pheidippides ran 42 kilometers to Athens to proclaim victory before dying of exhaustion. Pheidippides' massive effort gave rise to the marathon race held in many countries today. Xerxes I, Darius' successor, launched a massive invasion of Greece, resulting in the Second Greco-Persian War. The Athenian fleet, headed by Themistocles, went on to score a key victory in the Greek naval battle of Salamis. This success solidified the Athenian reputation as a naval power, paving the way for the development of the Delian League. Greek forces, including Athenians, were victorious at the Battle of Plataea and the Battle of Mycale in 479 BC, cementing Greek resistance against the Persians. The Athenian involvement in the Greco-Persian Wars was a crucial moment in Greek history, shaping events that had a lasting impact on the identity and development of the Greek city-states. Rising tensions between Athens and Sparta surfaced after the Greco-Persian Wars, especially due to the increasing naval power and the Delian League led by Athens. Squabbles over territories and regional interests increased hostilities between the two powers. Sparta led the Peloponnesian League, a coalition of Peloponnesian city-states, while Athens led the Delian League, a naval alliance formed to resist the Persian threat. The war broke out when Sparta declared war on Athens, setting the stage for a drawn-out conflict. Athens trusted its powerful navy, while Sparta relied on its impressive land infantry. An epidemic struck Athens, however, causing great devastation and leading to the death of the Athenian leader Pericles, and both Athens and Sparta faced internal uprisings and dissent during the conflict. Between 431 and 421 BC, the Archidamian War was an early phase of the Peloponnesian War, a conflict between the city-states of Athens and Sparta, along with their respective coalitions. This stage of the war was named after the Spartan king, Archidamus II, who led Sparta during this period. Athens' tactic was to avoid a head-on confrontation with the powerful Spartan army, and instead rely on its naval fleet while the walls protected the city from a land siege. There were several years of limited clashes and skirmishes during this phase, but no major decisive battles. The prolonged war led to the economic and social devastation for both cities and their alliances. The Battle of Aegospotami, which occurred in 405 BC, was one of the closing events of the Peloponnesian War and had a crucial role to play in the outcome of the conflict. Following a series of unfavorable events for Athens, including the disastrous expedition to Sicily in 415, naval and land warfare continued with an advantage for Sparta. The Athenian fleet, headed by Alcibiades, sustained significant losses, and Athens' naval power was undermined. Now, under the command of Conon, the Athenian fleet was anchored near Aegospotami on the Thracian coast. The Spartan commander, Lysander, spearheaded a daring night raid. The Athenian fleet was taken off guard and could not resist due to its lack of preparation and numerical inferiority. many Athenian ships were captured or destroyed, and most of the remaining Athenian triremes were either seized or burned. The defeat at Aegospotami left Athens virtually without a naval fleet. This proved to be a decisive blow, since it relied heavily on its navy to maintain the upper hand in the war. Isolated and enfeebled, Athens no longer had the resources or military capability to continue its resistance. The next year, in 404 BC, Athens surrendered, bringing the Peloponnesian War to an end. Athens, weakened and starving, was obliged to accept harsh conditions of surrender, resulting in the end of its Delian League, the dismantling of its long walls, and the loss of its colonies. The Hellenistic period started after the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and lasted for approximately the next 3 centuries. Athens, once a powerful Greek city-state, underwent significant changes in its political, economic, and cultural position during this period. Following Alexander's death, his generals, known as Diadochi, divided his empire into independent realms. Athens came under the rule of the Antigonid kingdom. Cassander, one of the Diadochi, held sway in Athens for a while, leading to a period of Macedonian rule. He rebuilt parts of Athens' walls, which had been demolished, but the city did not fully recover its former glory. Athens came under Roman rule from the 2nd century BC, after the defeat of Macedon in the Third Macedonian War. Athens then became part of the Roman province of Achaia and, subsequently, a Roman colony. Contrary to many other conquered cities, Rome was respectful of Athens' cultural and intellectual legacy. Many of the city's monuments and buildings have been preserved. The city remained an intellectual center. Philosophers such as Antiochus of Athens and philosophical schools such as the Platonic Academy continued to function. The Roman Emperor Hadrian, who held Greek culture in high regard, built Hadrian's Library in Athens, contributing to the preservation and furthering of knowledge. The Roman philanthropist Herodes Atticus financed the restoration and construction of several buildings in Athens, including the Odeon of Herodes Atticus. Following the breakup of the Roman Empire, Athens came under rule of the Byzantine Empire, characterized by a strong Orthodox Christian influence. Several Byzantine churches were constructed in Athens, featuring architectural and artistic elements distinctive to the Byzantine tradition, such as frescoes and mosaics. Athens underwent demographic changes over the centuries, with a decrease in population compared to its former magnitude. Economic decline also affected the city, with a decline in its role as a commercial center. The city faced challenges, including invasions and looting by barbarian invaders and pirates. Ancient Athens' legacy is vast and enduring. Athens' archaeological sites, including the Acropolis, are UNESCO World Heritage Sites, underlying its global importance. Its influence is still felt in many disciplines and forms of government around the world, making Athens one of the fundamental pillars of Western culture. The Kingdom of Epirus was an ancient state in northwestern Greece, renowned both for its natural beauty and its unique culture. Its history stretches back to ancient times, and the region often played a key role in the exchanges and conflicts between the Greek city-states. The region's chief city, often referred to as the ancient city of Epirus, was Dodona. It rose to fame due to its famous oracular sanctuary dedicated to Zeus, where priestesses, known as the doves of Dodona, would interpret the wind and leaf sounds to predict the future. As well as Dodona, other important cities in Epirus included Ambracia, Getane, and Passaron. Epirus's origins date back to the Hellenistic era and the ancient tribes inhabiting the northwestern region of Greece. The name Epirus may have its roots in the ancient Greek language and could mean mainland or dry land, reflecting the area situated on the Greek mainland, as opposed to the islands. In antiquity, the Epirus region was occupied by several tribes, including the Molossians, Thesprotians, and Chaonians. Each had its own dynasties and local leadership. The Molossian dynasty, allegedly descended from the mythological hero Achilles, had a key role to play in forming the Kingdom of Epirus. With time, the Kingdom of Epirus spread its influence over neighboring tribes and strengthened its territories in northwestern Greece. Moreover, Epirus had frequent contacts with the Greek city-states to the south, such as Athens and Sparta, as well as with the neighboring regions of the Balkans. The Epirus region did not evade the influence of neighboring kingdoms, especially Macedonia, led by Philip II and his son, Alexander the Great. The Macedonian influence molded politics and dynasties in Epirus, while members of the Epirot aristocracy were often involved in events taking place in the wider Hellenistic world. The Kingdom of Epirus developed into an independent state during the Hellenistic period and formed a centralized monarchy. Establishing the Molossian dynasty and cementing royal power helped shape Epirus as a different political entity. Epirus society featured an aristocratic class, bringing with it a significant role in government and decision-making. Aristocracy members often held important positions, counseling the monarch and actively contributing to running the kingdom. Epirotes were renowned for their soldiering skills and their input into the armed forces in regional conflicts. Taking part in wars such as the Pyrrhic Wars highlighted Epirus's military weight. The Pyrrhic Wars consisted of several conflicts between the Kingdom of Epirus, led by King Pyrrhus II, and the Roman Republic, initially headed by Publius Cornelius Scipio, and later by the famous Roman general Scipio Africanus. The Pyrrhic Wars were fought between 280 and 275 BC, and are remarkable not only for the battles, but also for popularizing the term Pyrrhic victory, understood to depict a victory won at such an inflated cost that it amounts to a rout. The Pyrrhic Wars were mainly brought by Pyrrhus II's involvement in the struggles between the Greek city-states of southern Italy and the growing Roman expansion in the region. Pyrrhus II, a well-known military commander and ally of the Greek cities, was called upon to help the Greek cities repel the Roman invasion. Each victory for Pyrrhus II, however, came at a significant cost in terms of resources and soldiers. Notwithstanding his initial triumphs, Pyrrhus found it difficult to consolidate his hold on the conquered territories and to gather local support against the Romans. All the while, the Roman Republic managed to recover from its defeats and replenish its ranks. After several campaigns, the Pyrrhic Wars ended in 275 BC with a decisive Roman victory at the Battle of Benevento. Although Pyrrhus II kept fighting for a brief time after this loss, he eventually abandoned his Italian efforts and returned to Epirus. The war between Epirus and Antigonus II Gonatas occurred against the backdrop of the struggles for the control of Macedonia and Greece, following Alexander the Great's death and the ensuing period of the Diadochi, or Alexander's successors. Antigonus II Gonatas was among the Diadochi descendants and claimed the Macedonian throne, while Epirus aimed to expand its sway in the region. The war against Antigonus II Gonatas was waged by Pyrrhus II, king of Epirus, between 274 and 272 BC. His ambitions were to seize the territories in Macedonia and expand his kingdom. Yet Antigonus II Gonatas was convinced to maintain his control over Macedonia and withstood Epirus's advances. The war led to a chain of battles and skirmishes between the forces of Epirus and those of Antigonus II Gonatas. Although Pyrrhus II had some early successes, such as the capture of the city of Athens, he faced significant resistance and failed to completely defeat Antigonus II Gonatas. The war ended in 272 BC, with Pyrrhus II's death during a siege of a Macedonian city. His demise put an end to Epirus's expansionist ambitions in the region and allowed Antigonus II Gonatas to solidify his control over Macedonia. The alliance between Epirus and the Roman Republic against Philip V of Macedon occurred as part of the Macedonian Wars, a series of conflicts between Rome and Macedon over control of Greece and the Balkans. Philip V, king of Macedon, was attempting to expand his dominion over Greek cities and neighboring territories, alarming Rome and prompting their deployment in the region. Epirus's alliance with Rome was driven largely by shared interests. Both Epirus and Rome saw Macedonian expansion as a challenge to their security and influence in the region. There was also a long-running rivalry between Epirus and Macedonia, which made it only natural for Epirus to join Rome against Philip V. The resulting alliance led to the Second Macedonian War, where Epirus, together with Roman forces, faced Philip V and his troops. The joint efforts of Epirus and Rome dealt significant blows to Philip V. The war ended with the Treaty of Tempe in 197 BC, imposing heavy terms on Macedonia and weakening Philip V's power in the region considerably. The Illyrian Wars consisted of a number of conflicts between Rome and the Illyrian tribes living in the Western Balkan region, known as Illyria. These battles were fought mainly during the 3rd and 2nd centuries BC, and involved several Roman military campaigns to overwhelm and control the Illyrian tribes. The political situation varied, with Epirus sometimes collaborating with Rome against those. The alliance between Epirus and the Roman Republic against Perseus of Macedon occurred during the Third Macedonian War, waged between the years 171 and 168 BC. Perseus was the king of Macedonia and was at odds with Rome over their rivalry for control of Greece and the Balkans. During this war, Epirus, led by King Pyrrhus V, sided with Rome against Perseus. Epirus's move to ally itself with Rome was prompted by several factors, including historical rivalries with Macedonia, mutual interest in containing Macedonian spread, and the hope of territorial gains or political influence. Epirus's alliance with Rome was pivotal to ending the Third Macedonian War. The combined forces of Epirus and Rome engaged Perseus in several battles, including the decisive Battle of Pydna in 168 BC, where Roman troops commanded by Lucius Aemilius Paulus defeated Perseus's Macedonian forces. The Roman Epirot triumph at the Battle of Pydna ushered in the end of Perseus's reign and the dissolution of the Macedonian kingdom as an independent power. It was divided into several republics and city-states under Roman oversight. As far as Epirus was concerned, the alliance with Rome against Perseus not only solidified its position as one of Rome's allies, but also gave it territorial gains and leverage in the region. Subsequent Roman interference in Greek affairs and the gradual loss of autonomy eventually led to the decline of the kingdom of Epirus. Even though it acted as an ally of Rome for so many years, Epirus was incorporated as a Roman province in 167 BC. The kingdom of Epirus had a significant legacy in the ancient Greek history and in the development of the Mediterranean world. While a relatively small state, and often outshone by larger powers such as Macedonia and Rome, Epirus contributed to the flourishing Greek culture, and its military and political influence continues to inspire study and interest to this day. The ancient Greek city of Thebes was one of ancient Greece's most influential and important city-states. It rose to prominence as a military and political power, standing up to Sparta's stranglehold and leaving a legacy through leaders such as Epaminondas and Pelopidas. Apart from its military bearing, Thebes was a vibrant cultural hotbed, home to personalities such as the lyric poet Pindar and the philosopher Plutarch. Thebes' origins stretch back to prehistoric times, with archaeological evidence indicating that the area had been inhabited by the Neolithic period. It is in the Boeotia region of central Greece, whose strategic positioning between Mount Cathaeron and Mount Parnassus helped boost its historical significance. Between 1600 and 1100 BC, Thebes was already an important and prosperous city during the Mycenaean period. It is mentioned in ancient Greek literature, such as Homer's Iliad, describing it as one of the major cities in Greece and an ally of Mycenae in the Trojan War. In Greek mythology, Thebes is often found in epic stories and legends, such as the Oedipus myth, which had an essential role to play in Greek culture and the city's identity. During the classical period, Thebes blossomed, rivaling other Greek city-states such as Athens and Sparta for regional supremacy. Its pinnacle occurred during the 4th century BC, notably during Epaminondas' and Pelopidas' tenure. Under their leadership, Thebes rose as a major military and political power in Greece, challenging Sparta's dominance. Like other Greek city-states, Thebes' citizenship was confined to free men born in it. They had political rights and partook in direct democracy. Yet, in specific periods, the city experimented with alternative forms of government. Religion was central to Theban life, worshipping deities such as the god of wine and fertility, Dionysus, and the god of the arts, music, and prophecy, Apollo. Thebes was also renowned for its Dionysian cult, encompassing festivals and rituals. Thebes helped develop Greek literature, with names such as Pindar, one of ancient Greece's greatest lyric poets, being born in the city. Philosophers such as Plutarch, a prolific writer and biographer, were also affiliated with Thebes. Education was highly esteemed and included classes in literature, music, philosophy, and gymnastics. It was well known for its pedagogues and academies, where young noblemen were trained in the arts and letters. Thebes was notorious for its military force, especially during the period when Epaminondas and Pelopidas led the city. The legendary Theban phalanx, an innovative military formation, was developed during this time, crucial to Theban battling successes. Thebes' economy during ancient Greece was shaped by trade. As a city-state located in a fertile area of Phoenicia, it had access to plentiful agricultural resources, including cereals, wine, olive oil, fruit, and vegetables. These goods were traded within the city itself and exported to other regions. Thebes also had a prosperous craft industry, with artisans making an assortment of items, such as ceramics, textiles, metals, and luxury pieces. These products were traded locally and exported to other Greek cities and abroad. While Thebes was not a port city, it was close enough to the Gulf of Corinth to profit from maritime trade. During the greater part of Thebes' history, the trading system was mainly based on exchanging goods and services, rather than the use of currency. But silver coins, such as the drachma, were used in commercial transactions, particularly in more complex and international deals. Apart from coins, credit and debt systems had a key role to play in Thebes' trade. Merchants often offered each other credit, facilitating long-distance trade and building long-lasting commercial ties. Thebes endured a stormy history of conflicts, wars, and military alliances over the centuries, notably during the ancient Greek classical period. From 431 to 404 BC, the Peloponnesian War saw Thebes and Sparta fighting on opposite sides, with Thebes supporting Athens against Sparta. After Athens' defeat, however, Thebes found itself in direct conflict with Sparta. The Battle of Leuctra, held in 371 BC, was one of the most important battles in Thebes' history. Under Epaminondas' lead, the Theban army defeated the Spartan troops in a decisive battle, breaking Sparta's military dominance and establishing Thebes as a dominant Greek power. In the wake of the Battle of Leuctra, Thebes undertook a series of military campaigns to expand its influence in central Greece and the Peloponnese. Epaminondas led these, forging alliances with other cities and confronting Sparta on several occasions. Thebes took part in the Sacred War of the Amphictyonic League towards the end of the 4th century, between 356 and 346 BC. A coalition of several Greek city-states, this was mainly fought by the Amphictyonic League of Delphi against the city of Phocis. The conflict broke out when the Amphictyonic League fined Phocis for farming sacred lands belonging to the Delphi sanctuary. As a response, Philomelos' Phocians decided to seize the sanctuary and use the temple's treasures to finance a mercenary army. Thebes and Thessaly responded first, forming a coalition against them. The war quickly escalated, with several Greek states joining the clash. King Philip II of Macedon spotted an opening to expand his influence in central Greece. In 352 BC, Philip intervened in the war, defeating the Phocians at the Battle of Crocus Field and taking control of Thessaly. His involvement was crucial to ending the conflict. When Alexander the Great died and his empire was split up, Thebes formed an alliance with the Pergamon kingdom in the fight against Antipater and Cassander, the generals who ruled Macedonia. The alliance with Pergamon may be seen against the background of the Greek city-states' strategies for survival and resistance against the forces of the larger Hellenistic kingdoms, such as Macedon and the Seleucid Empire. Such conflicts, wars, and military alliances were pivotal to the history of Thebes and shaped its political and military standing in ancient Greece. The city often found itself caught up in struggles for regional power and influence, and its maneuvering skills in these situations defined its success and reputation over the centuries. Ancient Greek Thebes' decline may be ascribed to several factors affecting its political, military, and economic position over time. Thebes suffered periods of internal political instability, with power struggles between different political sides and rivalries between aristocratic families. This instability eroded the city's internal cohesion and undermined its power to behave as a unified force. The city's economic decline also contributed to its downfall. The city depended heavily on agriculture and trade for its subsistence, and the loss of farmland and trade routes dented its prosperity. Thebes was also affected by catastrophic events, including earthquakes and barbarian invasions, wreaking havoc on the city and impairing its resilience. During the Macedonian Wars, fought between 214 and 148 BC, Rome overthrew Macedonia and spread its control over Greece. In 146 BC, after Corinth was destroyed, Greece was formally annexed as the Roman province of Achaia. Once the Roman conquest was over, Thebes, like the rest of Greece, was part of the Roman world. While Thebes never regained its former military and political glory, the city continued to exist and play a role in the region. The city remained under the rule of the Byzantine Empire once the Western Roman Empire had fallen. Thebes continued to be important as a regional center and became a focal point in Greco-Roman and later Christian cultures. Transition to Christianity brought new cultural and religious changes to it. Following Christianity's acceptance and eventual adoption as the official religion of the empire under Theodosius I by the end of the 4th century, churches and other Christian structures were increasingly built in Thebes. These included basilicas and meeting places for the believers. While Thebes lost its independence in the classical period and never regained its former glory, its legacy lives on in many ways. Its military, cultural, and mythological achievements have left an everlasting imprint on the history of ancient Greece. Thebes was a city of great leaders, military pioneers, and a brilliant cultural heritage, a key piece in the tapestry of Greek history. Rhodes was an ancient Greek city perched on the northeastern tip of the Dodecanese archipelago in the Aegean Sea. Well known for its strategic location, its natural harbor, and its cultural abundance, Rhodes emerged as an important commercial and military center in the Greek world. Amongst the prominent tale of Rhodes' origins is one related to Greek mythology. It says that the sun god, Helios, fell in love with the beautiful Rhodes, daughter of the sea god Poseidon. They had 7 sons and 1 daughter. Their children were known as the Heliadae, who became the first rulers of the Rhodes Island, named after their mother. They are widely credited with establishing a rich and prosperous culture on it. Archaeological evidence indicates that Rhodes has been inhabited since the Neolithic period. It was founded around the 8th century BC by the Dorians, one of the 4 main ethnic groups of ancient Greece. Its strategic location, with its natural harbor and proximity to maritime trade routes, fostered its growth as a prosperous city-state. Rhodes quickly became a maritime and trading power in the Aegean region, establishing lucrative trade routes and commercial relations with other Greek city-states, such as Athens and Sparta. During the Archaic period, it grew in importance and influence, building up an economy reliant on maritime trade, agriculture, and mining. The Doric Hexapolis was a confederation of 6 Dorian city-states in southwestern Asia Minor and some nearby islands. The 3 main cities were Lindos, Ialissos, and Cameros, followed by other smaller cities, Kos, Knidos, and Halicarnassus. These cities all shared a common origin and culture, and were united in a religious and political league. One of the main factors uniting these cities was the Apollo sanctuary on Mount Triopius, near Knidos. This temple was an important religious site where the Hexapolis cities held religious festivals and competitions. They held the Triopian Games in honor of the Triopian Apollo. These festivals included athletic and artistic contests and were an opportunity to cement ties between the cities. The culture and society of ancient Greece Rhodes was varied and fertile, influenced by a wide range of factors, including its geographical location, its role as a prominent city-state, and its interplay with other Mediterranean cultures. Rhodes society was typically class-based, with a ruling elite formed by aristocrats, merchants, and landowners. Under them were the ordinary citizens who could partake in the political life of the city-state, and finally, the non-citizens, who included foreigners and slaves. The Rhodes citizens had an active role in politics, participating in assemblies, voting on important decisions, and serving in public office. The city was home to several outstanding poets, philosophers, and artists, such as the poet Timocreon and the sculptor Lysippos. The Rhodes School of Sculpture was known for its ability to create bronze statues, some of which became famous throughout the ancient world, including the legendary Colossus of Rhodes, It was built between 292 and 280 BC and was a masterpiece of Hellenistic sculpture and a symbol of Rhodesian victory, freedom, and civic pride. The Colossus was planned and built by the Greek sculptor Charis of Lindos, a pupil of the renowned sculptor Lysippos. The statue was raised to celebrate the victory of the Rhodes citizens over the siege imposed by Demetrius Poliorcetes in 305 BC. The statue was mostly made of bronze, with an internal iron framework and filled with stone blocks for added stability. It is believed that the statue stood around 33 meters tall, making it one of the highest statues in the ancient world. In 226 BC, just 54 years after its completion, the Colossus was shattered by an earthquake that shook the island of Rhodes. The statue cracked at the knees and tumbled to the ground. Religion played a key role in the daily lives of the people of Rhodes, worshipping a range of gods and goddesses from the Greek pantheon, including Zeus, Hera, Athena, and Apollo. Rhodes also had its own gods and local festivals, including celebrations in honor of the sun god Helios and Atargatis, a Syrian goddess associated with fertility and healing. Rhodes set up and kept lucrative trade routes with several Greek city-states, such as Athens and Sparta, as well as other Mediterranean civilizations and regions, including Ptolemaic Egypt, the Seleucid Empire, Cyprus, and the Asia Minor coast. Rhodes' trade spanned a variety of goods, including food, wine, olive oil, textiles, metals, ceramics, slaves, and luxury items such as perfumes, jewelry, and artwork. Rhodes was one of the major founding members of the Rhodian League, a maritime confederation of Aegean city-states founded in the Hellenistic period. The Rhodesian League bolstered trade and maritime security in the region, offering protection against pirates and facilitating commercial ties between its members. Throughout its history, Rhodes was caught up in several conflicts, wars, and military alliances, echoing its strategic importance in the Aegean Sea and the Mediterranean. During the Persian Wars in the 5th century BC, Rhodes took an active role in the Greek resistance against the Persian invaders. The city took part in the Battle of Salamis in 480 BC, where the Greek fleet defeated the Persian one. Rhodes was originally a member of the League of Delos, an Athenian-led alliance in the 5th century BC, meant to protect Greek cities from the Persian threat. Nevertheless, in 408 BC, Rhodes broke with Athens and joined the Peloponnesian League after having disagreements with the Athenian leadership. During the Macedonian Wars in the 4th century BC, Rhodes was involved in the conflicts between the Greek city-states and the Macedonian Empire of Philip II and his son, Alexander the Great. Rhodes initially stood neutral during Alexander's conquests, but later allied itself with him, keeping a relatively favorable position. One of the most famous military events in Rhodes' history was the siege of Demetrius Poliorcetes between 305 and 304 BC. A Macedonian general, Demetrius tried to conquer the city-state, but was repelled by the Rhodes defenders. During the siege, its population cast bronze from statues and other pieces to build weapons and war gear, including the famous Helepolis war machine, bringing about the city's successful defense. Ancient Rhodes' decay took place over a sustained period, affected by numerous economic, political, and military factors. One of the key events that contributed to Rhodes' decline was its merger with the Roman Republic in 164 BC after its defeat in the Third Macedonian War. While it maintained some autonomy and prosperity under Roman rule, Rhodes lost its standing as an independent maritime power and had to bow down to Rome's rule and demands. Also affecting Rhodes' security and stability was the political turmoil in the eastern Mediterranean region, involving conflicts between empires and incursions by barbarian peoples such as pirates and Goths. The decline of the Rhodesian League enfeebled its regional position and made it more vulnerable to invasions and attacks. Historical events, like the breakup of the Roman Empire and the rise of the Byzantine Empire, significantly impacted Rhodes' fate. While it remained under Byzantine rule for centuries, it lost much of its political and economic significance during this period. Rhodes' legacy continues to shape history and culture, bearing witness to ancient Greek civilization's cleverness and resilience. Its importance as a center of trade, culture, and politics in the ancient world bears an everlasting imprint on human history.
Located in the northeast of the Peloponnese Peninsula, the ancient city of Corinth was one of the most important city-states of Greek ancient times. Strategically located on the narrow isthmus connecting the Peloponnese to the Greek mainland, it was a crucial trading and maritime center. Corinth's roots date back to prehistoric times, with evidence of human occupation in the region as far back as the Neolithic period, but the city only grew in importance from the Mycenaean Age, which lasted from 1600 to 1100 BC, when it became a commercial and cultural center in ancient Greece. Greek mythology claims that Corinth was established by the tyrant Sisyphus, where he ruled for several years. He married Merope, daughter of the titan Atlas, fathered Glaucus, and grandfathered the hero Bellerophon. While the Corinth region was largely colonized by the Achaeans, one of the Greek tribes that invaded Greece during the Bronze Age, the city thrived due to its strategic location on the isthmus, making it simpler to establish trade between the Peloponnese and the rest of Greece. Corinth emerged as a naval and commercial power during the Archaic period, which took place between 800 and 500 BC. It established colonies in spots around the Mediterranean Sea, such as Corcyra and Syracuse in Sicily. Corinth met several challenges throughout its history. During the Greco-Persian Wars at the beginning of the 5th century BC, the city allied itself with the Persians against the Greek city-states, causing resentment among its fellow Greeks. Corinth's economy was greatly influenced by sea and land trade. Its location on the isthmus between the Peloponnese and the remainder of Greece made it a crucial trading center. The city was known for its top-quality ceramics, especially Corinthian vases, exported to many parts of the ancient world. Moreover, Corinth was a naval and commercial powerhouse, establishing colonies in different parts of the Mediterranean. Acrocorinth, a fortified hill that dominated the city, was one of the most notable features of ancient Corinth. This citadel offered strategic protection and served as a refuge during times of conflict. Corinth was also known for its diversified population and cosmopolitan atmosphere. As a result of its strategic location, it drew people from different regions, including Greeks, Romans, Jews, Persians, and Celts, contributing to its cultural richness. The city was a worship center for the goddess Aphrodite, and the Temple of Aphrodite, known as the Aphrodisium, stood as one of its most famous landmarks. The temple was home to a large number of sacred concubines, known as Hetiarii, who served as priestesses and took part in religious rituals. Corinth was home to the Isthmian Games, a sporting festival dedicated to Poseidon, which included athletic, musical, and literary competitions. The Isthmian Games were an important event in the Greek sporting calendar and attracted athletes and spectators from all over Greece. Corinth was an oligarchy, with power held by an aristocratic elite. This was composed of influential families who held political and economic control of the city. Nevertheless, Corinth's political system underwent changes over time, including spells of tyranny and limited democracy. Among the most well-known examples was Cypselus's rule, a tyrant who seized control of Corinth around the 7th century BC and established the Bacchiadae dynasty. He was known for instituting political and economic reforms in the city, but also for ruling autocratically. Cypselus's son, Periander, succeeded his father as tyrant of Corinth. He was a ruler renowned for his ruthlessness, but also for his achievements, including improvements to infrastructure and trade policies. As one of the most important city-states in ancient Greece, Corinth was involved in several wars and conflicts throughout its history. It was one of Athens' chief adversaries during the Peloponnesian War, waged between the Delian League led by Athens and the Peloponnesian League led by Sparta, between 431 and 404 BC. Corinth was an important Sparta ally and took an active role in the conflict. The Corinthian War was fought between Sparta and a coalition led by Athens and Thebes between 395 and 386 BC, with Corinth joining in. The war featured several battles and conflicts in different corners of Greece, with neither side achieving a decisive victory. A peace treaty was eventually reached in 386 BC, bringing the conflict to a temporary end. Corinth was one of the Greek city-states opposed to the growing influence of Philip II of Macedon in Greece. He sought to extend his control over the Greek city-states, which resulted in clashes with Corinth and other cities. The Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BC scored a decisive victory for Philip, consolidating his rule over Greece. Corinth was one of the leading members of the Achaean League, a confederation of Peloponnesian city-states. The Achaean League entered into the conflict with the Roman Republic, resulting in the Battle of Corinth in 146 BC, where the Romans, led by Lucius Mummius, decisively defeated the Greek forces. The defeat signaled the end of Corinth's independence and the domination of the Greek city-states by the Roman Republic. Over the course of the Roman invasion and the ensuing battles, the city of Corinth was destroyed. It was, however, rebuilt by Julius Caesar in 44 AD and became an important Roman colony. While it was reconstructed, its autonomy and political influence were significantly reduced. New maritime routes and shifts in trade interests lessened the isthmus of Corinth's importance as a crucial commercial axis. This reduced the city's income and its role as an economic power. Cultural and social changes in ancient Greece may also have had a role to play in Corinth's decline. As time went by, new philosophical and religious ideas emerged, defying ancient traditions and impacting on the city's social and cultural cohesion. Corinth also had a significant role in early Christian history, particularly due to the presence of the Apostle Paul of Tarsus in the city and the ongoing correspondence he had with the local Christian community. Paul of Tarsus wrote 2 epistles to Corinth's Christian community, known as the First and Second Epistles to the Corinthians, included in the New Testament of the Bible. These letters deal with a variety of religious, ethical, and practical issues faced by the Corinthians and offer advice and instructions on how to live an authentic Christian life. Corinth remained an important city under Byzantine rule, serving as an administrative and military center in the Peloponnese region. It was one of the main cities in the Hellas province, covering a large part of central Greece and the Peloponnese. Even during the Byzantine period, Corinth faced threats of foreign invasion, especially from the Slavs and Arabs. The city was heavily fortified and garrisoned to resist these threats, although it was periodically the target of attacks and looting. The historical legacy of ancient Corinth was an essential part of the cultural and intellectual heritage of the Greek world, and continue to influence art, politics, religion, and society throughout the ancient world. Its contributions have left an everlasting impact on the history of Western civilization. Located on the east coast of the Italian island of Sicily, Syracuse is one of the most important cities in ancient Greek history. Established by Greek settlers from Corinth around 734 BC, Syracuse became a regional power and a major cultural center during the Archaic and Classical periods. The city thrived due to its strategic location, its natural port, and wealthy agricultural land. It flourished as a military and economic power, developing a naval fleet capable of fighting other Greek city-states, including Athens and Sparta. Throughout the first centuries, Syracuse grew as a typical Greek city-state, having a political system founded on an oligarchy of land-owning aristocrats. Towards the end of the 5th century BC, Syracuse was under the tyrannical regime of Dionysius I, who ruled with an iron fist. He expanded Syracuse's power and influence by building a powerful navy and defensive fortifications. Syracuse was an important cultural center, where major playwrights such as Aeschylus contributed to developing Greek drama. The Greek theater of Syracuse, built in the 5th century BC, stands as an outstanding example of Greek theatrical architecture and was the venue for many performances. One of the greatest mathematicians and scientists of antiquity, Archimedes, was born in Syracuse. His achievements in mathematics, physics, and engineering are well known, including the lever, Archimedes' screw, and measuring the volume of irregular objects. Syracuse was graced with beautiful art and architecture, including temples, statues, and public buildings. While many of these have been lost over the centuries, the remaining ruins still show the splendor of ancient Syracuse. Like other Greek city-states, religion and mythology were key to Syracuse's daily life. Temples consecrated to the Greek gods, such as Zeus and Athena, were built in the city, and religious festivals occurred regularly. Syracuse attempted to expand its territory and influence in Sicily and the Western Mediterranean, often resulting in conflicts with other Greek city-states, such as Athens, and with foreign powers, such as Carthage and Rome. During the Peloponnesian Wars between 431 and 404 BC, Syracuse had a significant role as one of the main city-states outside the Greek mainland. The Peloponnesian Wars were waged between the two main alliances of ancient Greece, Athens and its Delaine League, and Sparta and its Peloponnesian League. While not directly embroiled in the conflict at first, Syracuse became a focal point due to its relations with Athens and its rivalry with Corinth, an ally of Sparta. The relationship between Syracuse and Athens shifted dramatically when Athens decided to intervene in a civil war in Segesta, a city allied with Syracuse. As a response, Syracuse turned to Sparta for help. Athens sent a fleet led by Alcibiades and Nicias to subdue Syracuse, leading to a long and well-known siege that lasted several years. During this siege, Syracuse greatly benefited from Archimedes' resourcefulness. He devised several siege and defensive devices that helped repel Athenian attacks. The siege of Syracuse was a catastrophe for Athens. Its fleet suffered heavy casualties and had to withdraw. It was one of Athens' most spectacular defeats during the Peloponnesian Wars. The Sicilian Wars, waged between 480 and 307 BC, consisted of several conflicts between Syracuse and Carthage for control of Sicily. Both Syracuse and Carthage had vested interests in Sicily, an island with abundant natural resources, especially fertile land and minerals. Both powers were looking to expand their dominance over the island and control its cities and strategic ports. The Battle of Himera was one of the most significant battles, where Syracuse, together with other Greek Sicilian cities, defeated a large Carthaginian force, temporarily leading to the decline of Carthaginian influence in the region. The Battle of Crymissus was another important clash, where Syracuse and its Greek allies confronted the Carthaginian forces. It was an inconclusive affair, but it showed Syracuse's resolve to resist Carthaginian expansion. While Carthage held on to some parts of Sicily, its attempts to expand were curtailed by the power of Syracuse and other Sicilian Greek cities. These disputes shaped the history and geopolitics of Sicily, impacting the balance of power and relations between the island's different ethnic and political communities. In the 3rd century BC, Rome was rising as a Mediterranean military power, trying to expand its dominance over Italy and beyond. Sicily was a strategic target due to its natural resources and geographical location. The Syracuse-Roman conflict started during the First Punic War between Rome and Carthage for control of Sicily. Syracuse initially attempted to remain neutral, but ended up allying with Carthage against Rome. When Carthage was defeated in the First Punic War, Rome turned its attention to Syracuse. In 212 BC, Syracuse was besieged and conquered by Roman forces led by General Marcus Claudius Marcellus, following a long and difficult siege. Conquering Syracuse was a major setback for Syracuse's independence and influence in the region. It was merged into the Roman Empire and became a province. Nevertheless, Syracuse continued to be an important city in the Roman period, helping to develop the empire's culture and economy. Syracuse's architectural and historical legacy continues to lure tourists and scholars from all over the world. Portions of the ancient city are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The legacy of ancient Syracuse is still a source of inspiration and wonder to this day, bearing witness to its enduring importance in Western civilization's history. The Greek city of Massalia, now known as Marseille, is one of France's oldest towns and enjoys a unique and fascinating history dating back to antiquity. Founded by audacious settlers, Massalia was a trading and prosperous center and played a key role in the cultural exchange between the Greek world and the distant Iberian and Gaul lands. Massalia was established by Greek settlers around 600 BC. Its foundation history is tied to the city of Phocaea, a Greek city located in Asia Minor region of present-day Turkey. Towards the 7th century BC, Phocaea faced political problems and instability, leading some of its citizens to seek new opportunities in distant lands. A group of these settlers, headed by a man called Protus, sailed across the Mediterranean until they reached the coast of present-day France. They eventually found a favorable location near the mouth of the Rhone River, offering access to both sea and land trade. This vantage point was chosen as the site to establish a new Greek colony, known as Massalia. According to tradition, Protus was warmly welcomed by the villagers, led by the Greek princess Gyptus. As the legend goes, she was impressed by Protus, and in a sign of hospitality and alliance, chose him as her husband, symbolizing the union between the Greek settlers and the locals. This union between Protus and Gyptus is often considered the founding myth of Massalia. Massalia's foundation was a typical undertaking of the Greek city-states of the time, seeking to expand their influence through colonization. The Greek settlers not only established a city, but also brought with them their culture, language, and traditions, building a new community that reflected their Greek origins. Massalia prospered over time as an important commercial post in the Western Mediterranean, establishing trade relations with other Greek cities, as well as with native communities in the region. Its foundation heralded the beginning of a long and varied history that has shaped the city and its influence over the centuries. Massalia is said to have been decked out with temples, theaters, and other public buildings typical of ancient Greek architecture. While few physical traces remain today, one can reasonably suppose that the city shared many of the architectural styles and techniques common in other Greek cities. Religion was a central part of ancient Greek life, and Massalia was no exception. Temples consecrated to Greek deities such as Zeus, Athena, and Apollo probably peppered the city's landscape, and religious festivals were held regularly. Massalia's economy was primarily seaborne, and the city was known for exporting products such as wine, olive oil, and ceramics. Foreign merchants and traders contributed to the city's economic diversity. Commerce in Massalia was not just an exchange of goods, but also a cultural interaction. There were merchants and travelers from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds who enhanced the city and contributed to its diversity. Massalia soaked up cultural influences from different Mediterranean parts, absorbing elements of art, architecture, cuisine, and foreign languages. Its wealth and influence from trade made it a city of interest to other regional powers, such as Carthage and Rome, who sought to control trade in the Western Mediterranean. Massalia's history, like many ancient cities, was shaped by a series of conflicts, wars, and military alliances, both with other Greek cities and with foreign powers. Massalia faced mounting military challenges from the Celtic and Ligurian tribes that inhabited the Gaul region. These native peoples often led raids against the Greek city, sometimes in league with other powers, such as the Iberian tribes that inhabited present-day Spain and Portugal. Massalia sought Rome's protection from external threats at times in its history, especially during the clashes with Carthage during the Punic Wars. This strategic alliance with Rome strengthened Massalia's hold on the Western Mediterranean and helped guarantee its independence and security. The Roman influence in Massalia had a major impact on the city's history and development over time. It was gradually absorbed into the Roman Empire during the 1st and 2nd centuries BC. As Rome expanded its influence over the Western Mediterranean, the city became part of the Roman province of Transalpine Gaul, which encompassed much of modern-day France. Upon joining the Roman Empire, Massalia experienced a Romanization process, in which aspects of Roman culture, language, and institutions were embraced by the local population. Roman architecture and customs were introduced to the city, adding to the existing Greek heritage. The Romans spent time improving Massalia's infrastructure, building roads, aqueducts, and other engineering projects to upgrade the city's connectivity and standard of living. As the Roman Empire declined in the 5th century AD, Massalia went through a difficult period of turbulence and change as control over the region changed hands and the city experienced political and social challenges. Like many Roman cities, Massalia was subject to raids by barbarian tribes such as the Visigoths, Ostrogoths, and Franks, who led to destruction and chaos in the region. Massalia was merged into the Kingdom of Provence, part of the Carolingian Empire at the beginning of the medieval period, when Charlemagne and his successors ruled. This era brought a degree of political stability and gradual rebirth of the city, which gradually reclaimed its role as a learning and intellectual exchange center, attracting renowned scholars and artists. Many of the architectural and urban features of ancient Massalia, such as the winding streets and defensive walls, are still visible in parts of Marseille's Old Town, known as Le Panier. Massalia's rich Greek cultural legacy remains alive in modern Marseille through festivals, celebrations, and events celebrating Greek history and influence in the city, providing a testament to the long-lasting influence the Greek city has had on the region and Western history. Sparta was one of the main city-states of ancient Greece, known for its highly militarized society, harsh discipline, and unique way of life. It took part in crucial events in Greek history, such as the Medicean Wars and the Peloponnesian War. distinguishing itself as a singular example of a society shaped by military values and stern discipline. Sparta's foundation is surrounded by legends and myths, and the exact events that led to its creation are hard to pin down. Spartan tradition ascribed the founding of the city to Leleges, a pre-Doric tribe that inhabited the region. The Dorian influence, however, was paramount in shaping Spartan society. The most well-known legend about Sparta's foundation is based on the twin brothers Castor and Pollux in Greek mythology. The story goes that Leda, the wife of the Spartan king Tyndareus, was seduced by Zeus, disguised as a swan. She gave birth to the twins Castor and Pollux, and also to Helen, who married Menelaus, who assumed the throne of Sparta, and who, according to the Iliad, was a central figure in the famous Trojan War. These mythological developments resulted in the Aegead dynasty, said to be descended from Eurysthenes, son of Aristomachus, who in turn descended from Hercules. The Aegidas and the Eurypondids were the two royal dynasties of Sparta, both of which traced their mythological origins back to Greek heroes and gods. The historical tradition suggests that the Dorians, an Indo-European tribe, raided the Peloponnese and eventually the region that would become Sparta around 11th century BC. This incursion played a part in forming Spartan society, known for its military organization, distinctive political system, and social institutions. Sparta was known for its military organization, strong stance on discipline, and unique political system. Spartan citizens, also known as homoi, which in ancient Greek meant equal among themselves, formed Sparta's military and political elite. To be regarded as a Spartan citizen, one needed to come from legitimate Spartan families. Purity of lineage and the upholding of Spartan ancestry were crucial. The Helots were a social class in Spartan society, forming the primary agricultural and serf workforce. The Helots' position was one of servitude, and they had a vital role in sustaining the Spartan economy and way of life. The Helots descended from local populations who lived in the region of Laconia and Messenia, areas conquered by Sparta. Following the Messenian Wars in the 8th century BC, many of these regions' inhabitants were forced to become Helots. Their primary task was to carry out agricultural work on the lands of the Spartan citizens. They cultivated the fields, raised livestock, and provided the products needed to sustain Spartan military society. The Helots did not have the same rights and status as Spartan citizens. They were regarded as state property and were forced to hand over part of their output to the Spartans. To prevent uprisings, the Helots were kept under strict control. They lived in harsh conditions, subject to extreme punishment for disobedience or attempts to escape. Sparta implemented an institution called the Cryptia, in which young Spartans were tasked with spying on and controlling the Helots. This was done to avoid any possible rebellions or insurrections. On some occasions, the Helots actually rebelled against Spartan rule. The Helots' revolt during the Peloponnesian War in the 5th century BC is a prime example. The Greek historian Thucydides documented this event in his work History of the Peloponnesian War. According to him, the Helots rebelled in Messenia, a region controlled by Sparta. They succeeded in occupying the city of Ithome, which became a rebel stronghold. The Helots were finally defeated by the Spartans, and Ithome was captured after a lengthy siege. The Helots' fate after the revolt is not entirely clear, but it is likely that many were once again reduced to the status of serfs, subject to harsher Spartan control measures. Spartan architecture echoed the society's austere lifestyle. The buildings were fairly simple compared to other Greek city-states, such as Athens. Sparta had an agora, a public square that acted as the center of social and commercial life. Life in Sparta was marked by austerity. Spartans were urged to avoid lavishness and focus on the practical aspects of life. Spartan women had more freedom and status in comparison to other Greek city-states. They were encouraged to practice sports and physical exercise to make sure they could defend themselves and become healthy, strong mothers to future Spartan soldiers. The city of Sparta was simultaneously ruled by two kings, a form of government known as diarchy. The leaders were military men, but their power was limited by political institutions. For example, The Gerousia was a council of elders with 28 lifelong members over the age of 60. The Gerousia helped in political decision-making and was in charge of approving or vetoing proposals from the assembly. The ephors were leaders who jointly shared power with the Spartan kings. 5 ephors were elected annually by the Spartan assembly. They supervised the kings, influenced the Gerousians' decisions, and overall ensured that the laws were enforced. The ecclesia consisted of the Spartan citizens, but its power was limited compared to other Greek city-states. The assembly was vested with the authority to approve or reject proposals from the Gerousia and ephors. Sparta prized social and political stability. Spartan laws were strict, and the top priority was to maintain order and cohesion in society. The Spartan government consisted of maintaining military discipline, avoiding any radical changes in the social structure, and ensuring the stability of the state. Militarism was a core trait of Spartan society and state, being one of the main reasons for the city-state's notoriety in ancient Greece. The Spartan military system was heavily organized and focused on creating an efficient and disciplined fighting force. The Spartan educational and military training system, known as agoge, started in childhood and was designed to turn young men into disciplined soldiers. It included intense physical training, combat skills, endurance, hunting, survival, and athletic competitions. The Spartan army was mostly hoplites, the Greek heavy infantry. They used spears, shields, and armor, making up highly disciplined phalanx lines. Unlike other Greek city-states, where service in the military was often restricted to the upper class, all Spartan citizens were soldiers. This instilled a sense of equality among them. There was an elite among the hoplites known as the hippais, serving as a personal guard for the Spartan kings. They were selected based on exceptional performance and military ability. Throughout its history, Sparta was involved in several wars and conflicts, standing out for its military skill and its leading position in the Peloponnesian League. It played an active role in the Greco-Persian Wars. Most notably, the Spartan king Leonidas led the Greek defense at the Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BC, in which a small Greek contingent, comprising 300 Spartans, bravely resisted Xerxes' Persian forces. The Peloponnesian War was a drawn-out conflict between Athens and the Peloponnesian League, led by Sparta and its allies, seeking to curb Athens' growing influence. The conflict had several stages, with Sparta initially achieving success, but eventually facing setbacks, especially after the Battle of Sphacteria and the Helots Uprising. This was a turning point in Spartan military history. Epaminondas's Theban army inflicted a significant defeat on Sparta. In 371 BC, the Battle of Leuctra marked the decline of Spartan military power and the rise of Thebes in Greece. The collapse of Sparta was a step-by-step process that lasted several centuries and was influenced by a number of factors, including military events, social changes, and political transformations in ancient Greece. The Peloponnesian League, led by Sparta, gradually lost its political influence in Greece after the Peloponnesian War. Athens and Thebes emerged as dominant powers as a result. This lack of active participation in important political events helped bring about the downfall of Sparta as a significant political force. The rigid Spartan social fabric started to show fraying signs. An emphasis on military discipline and a shortage of land for Spartan citizens led to inner turmoil. Civil wars and infighting contributed to the splintering of Spartan society. After Alexander the Great's conquest and the rise of the Macedonian Empire, Sparta lost its political autonomy. The ensuing incorporation into the Roman Republic consolidated Sparta's political and military decline. Contrary to other Greek city-states, Sparta did not place much value on intellectual and artistic culture. This economic and cultural lack of diversification hampered its long-term development. Sparta's enduring legacy remains not only as a lesson in determination and military discipline, but also as a reminder of the dangers of excessive rigidity when faced with inevitable change. With all its singularity, ancient Sparta still fascinates scholars and history buffs around the world.